completely ruined my countdown. I even turned my mic on. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today, and also pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Flynn. I'm doing a bang-up job so far, and I'm here with James Barnard. What's up, James?
Hey, how's it going? You're fine. No, Johanna's away, isn't she? You're on your own.
She
No
is.
excuses. You're absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. We're all good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, doing the tech, doing chat, and speaking of chat, what's up, everybody here? I can see Shayla as well is in there. What's up? Hope I pronounced your name correctly. Apologies if I didn't. Peter's here as well. Says excited for part 2. The first stream was fantastic, and Gareth is here too. That's fantastic. Great to have you here. We are live, so if you have questions as we're going along, I know I will for James because I've been following his tutorial basically step by step since Tuesday. I've had a great time with it. Just let us know in chat. So we're here to answer your questions. So don't hesitate to throw them in, whether it's about what we're doing here or maybe kind of social media in general. We might even have time for a little bit of Q&A at the end. So get those questions in and we'll do our best to answer.
Might even have time. We definitely will have time at the end of the stream. There's not too much left to do with the video. So since Tuesday, I actually finished off the video and I posted it to TikTok and Instagram. And it did pretty well. And we're going to go into like what actually happened and the actual stats behind the video. But we've got a little bit of work left to do from where we left off on Tuesday. So why don't we get into that first, tidying up, adding captions and final tweaks and settings. And then once we've got there and we've got ready to actually post the video, we can talk about how it actually did and why it did so well.
Awesome.
Little
All
spoiler
right, let's
there.
do it.
All right, so when we finished last, we had basically completed our timeline. We had our adjustment layers in. There's a couple of things that we should do to this video in order to kind of get it finalized and get it ready for platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So the full timeline's in there. When I went to actually finish this video off, once I played this through, there was one little tip that I wanted to add to this video, and that was just to create a little bit of motion at the section where I talk about a squircle. So if we go back in our timeline and find the part where I'm talking about it, which isn't always ideal, or we can use a squircle, and yes, that is actually a word. If you're okay. Now, when I say squircle, I like the fact that I put a lot of emphasis on that, and any good sort of TikTok or Instagram reel has a lot of motion in it because it keeps people engaged. If it's just, we talked about in the last session how we zoom in and out of a video, creates the sense of a second camera. There's one other thing that you can do, which is kind of like a quick zoom effect. Now, I got taught this by another TikToker, and I've forgotten his name. I'm really sorry. I should have got that beforehand. If we have time at the end, I'll try and look it up. He uses this tip where it zooms really fast into the video rather than cutting in, and he adds a bit of motion blur onto it as well. So we're just going to try and go ahead with that now. So if we go into our effects panel and we look up the transform effect, so TIAN, so scroll down, try and find it. Oh, sorry, I have real trouble working in one screen here. I'm going to drag the transform effect over onto our clip. And in our effect controls over here, we are going to uncheck use composition shutter angle. And we're going to change the shutter angle to 180 degrees. Now, we can use the actual transform panel here to change our position and our scale of this video to zoom in. So let's get to the point where we want to zoom in. A squircle. Okay, so it's right there. So if we zoom in and we get to a squircle, we start off maybe a couple of frames beforehand. We're going to check the little toggle animation stopwatch here on position and on scale. We're going to go 4 frames ahead. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to zoom in to my face. I'm going to change the horizontal position down, like so. I'm getting a bit of a bug here. It's actually weirdly, when I change the position, it's nudging it for some reason. I'm not really sure what that's happening. I'm sure we can fix that a little bit later if it actually exports that way. So what we do is we highlight the first 2 keyframes there, right click, temporal interpolation, ease out, highlight the second two keyframes, right click, same thing, ease in, and that's just going to add a little bit of easing to our effect. Use a squircle, and it zooms in using a lovely bit of motion blur. A squircle, and you probably can't see that too well on the stream because it's obviously encoding our video and the screen recording here, but basically it's zooming in really quickly to the screen. Now you can actually add some sound effects, like a whip transition sound effect to this, which is kind of cool. Luckily for us, because we're all, of course, Adobe CC subscribers, Adobe Audition has some royalty-free ones that come with it. So maybe we can add this link to the description afterwards, Flynn. But this is basically a set of compressed zips that are royalty-free and are available to everyone with a CC, with a Creative Cloud license. We go down to Weapons, and we download this now. I've already downloaded this beforehand. Yeah, and inside Weapons, let me just bring up the my links panel here. In our audio, we've got an axe whip.
Cool.
You hear that? Okay, so we can drag that onto our timeline. I've never done this before, but I thought, this will be a bit of fun to add to this this animation, because it's a little bit cheesy, but we'll give it a go. I'll see how it works. So that's the start of our keyframe, and if we just zoom in and get the we'll crop the sound to the start of that waveform, nudge it over. Oh, too much. Just one keyframe there. A squircle. Okay, it's a little bit loud. So if we click on the audio and we go over to volume, we'll just nudge that down. If we go to -5 decibels, that's probably okay. We want it on the actual whip. I think it's just a little bit too soon. So if we just nudge it over. Okay, let's just watch that whole clip. By the way, you can press up and down cursor to jump to the start and end of each cut in your timeline. So if I just zoom out here, if I press the down cursor, it nudges the playhead to each individual cut, which is a really great way of skipping through our timeline. Okay, let's test this out. Or we can use a squircle. And yes, I love it.
That's great.
Okay, yeah, so it's a nice little cheeky effect, and some accounts like Mr. Beast and those really popular YouTube accounts, they do that all the time. So when the camera whip pans all over the screen, it's like so yeah, easy little free audio for you there. Excellent. Okie dokie. So let's go to the start of our video, and I obviously, within TikTok and Instagram, it's good to add a piece of intro text to the top of the video. So not only do you have to kind of get to the point really quickly, but a piece of text at the top, like a label, will just basically tell the viewer what this video is going to be about. So we could add something like, what the heck is a squircle, to our timeline. So if we grab the text tool here and we just draw a box in our frame. I've got a very specific style I like to use, Futura. I'm just going to type in here is a squircle. I'm going to select this. Now we probably want to go to our essential graphics panel here, because unfortunately I'm working on one screen. It's kind of hard to do this. I'm just going to have to nudge this up a little bit.
With your two screens, do you normally have kind of the timeline and the video, maybe assets or something in the one screen, and you have all of your windows kind of permanently shown or something on the other screen?
That's right. The more screens you have, the more important you are. You know that. It's so handy to have the preview monitor over on the second screen, so you can have it nice and full. It actually fills up the entire screen, and that way I can just expand this timeline out completely across my first monitor. And then even this, you see this effects control panel here, I have that all the way over to the right, and that one has its own individual time. So when you're doing things like keyframing on effects, you can have a wider sort of timeline across your second monitor, which makes things so much more easy to actually edit with. So I'm going to bring over my libraries panel, because I've got some brand colors that I use all the time. I can select the eyedropper tool here. Now, I wish this feature was part of every single Adobe package. If you select the color here and you do the eyedropper, it actually samples from anywhere, not just from inside the software, even externally from different browsers and doesn't even have to be inside Premiere Pro, which means I can just click on my library color here and select it. I could even sample something in the timeline, like basically anything on screen, and I wish that was true with the rest of the software packages from Adobe. I'm just going to add a background color to this. That's off black. And I've spelled squircle wrong. No one said that in the chat. Come on, guys. Keep up. Right. Let's select this. I'm going to do all caps. I'm going to center this. And I'm also going to pad that ever so slightly, just so that it's surrounding the type a little bit. So this kind of background square is just wrapping it a little bit more neatly. Let's go 40. So in TikTok, you can add this, obviously using like a label inside the actual app, as and when you want to put it onto your, when you've exported your video and you want to upload it. There's a reason that's a good idea as well in TikTok, is because apparently the search feature is being pushed like hell. And by using the native text inside the app, it'll actually include that as a sort of search term. So when people not Google, but put in the search term in TikTok, squircle, your video will come up. The same with captions. You want to try and add your captions inside the app as well. We're going to add that. We're going to burn them.
That's for TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok specifically. What I do with TikTok is I actually put the captions in as well, and I make them really, really small, and then I hide them off the screen so that I can use my native captions, which look a lot more pretty. It's kind of a little SEO hack there.
Okay, I see. So just to reiterate that, because that was a bit. So because algorithm reasons, search functionality, maybe it uses it for the algorithm and everything. You'll still copy the subtitles that you have into natively into TikTok, but you'll hide them somewhere, so you can't visually see them. So keep the burnt ones on, right? I
don't know if that officially works. So don't take that as gospel. But there's auto-generated captions in TikTok. So when you press the captions button after you've uploaded it, the captions are auto-generated by the software. You go in and you make your tweaks and your spelling errors. And then what I like to do, because it used to be that the captions were set at the bottom of the screen, which was really nice, and they were out of the way. Now, when you add captions, they put them right in the middle of the video, and it covers up all of this lovely work that we've done with our graphics and our own labels and stuff, and they get in the way. They also don't look very good. They group in big batches of words, sometimes sentences, and they look really awful. I don't like the style of them at all. So what I do is, I put them in to the video, I shrink them down by pinching, and then I flip it on its side, and I drag it off the screen to the bottom left-hand corner just before it wants to try and delete it from the scene, and then just nudge it up slightly. And so they're in the video, but they're actually not on display. So I think that works, but don't take that as gospel. Okay, so we've got our native text now, and also I'm burning this into the video because I like the style of this, and I like how it looks on Instagram, which I don't think is as important for SEO. So I'll use this version for Instagram, and in TikTok, I will type out what the heck is a squircle as a label, and drag that over the top of this intro text that I've done here. So it kind of hides the one that we've done, but gets the kind of SEO across there. So
that's great. We've been talking a lot about efficiency, and that's those two solutions are really great because you really only just need the one video at the end. You're not doing a TikTok version and a Reels version, which saves you a lot of time. And
it does, yeah. I don't have to export the video without captions, so maybe I'm having to do two versions of it. Even with YouTube Shorts as well, if you want to upload there too, that one video will work, in my case anyway, across those three different platforms, which is just such a huge time saver. So I only really have my intro text for the first maybe 10-15 seconds of the video, so I'll hide the clearance of that with a cut. So I usually like to drag it up to somewhere where I've got something overlaid on screen. Size and the color of the rectangle, sometimes it can feel like there's a bit, so it's disappeared there, so you don't really notice that it's gone. I also need to get rid of it because I've got my labels going on screen here, and by having that text over the top, it would get in the way of my labels, which is not good. So I'm just going to trim that to the start of that cut. All right, so that is basically ready to export. I'm now going to add the captions to the video. So this part is a bit laborious, but luckily Premiere Pro has built-in transcribe functionality. So if you go to Window, now you guys want to go to Workspace, Captions, and Graphics. I have generated my own workspace here called JB Adobe Live Captions, just to make sure that this all gets on one screen, and we still keep our preview pane because we're working in portrait format. The default settings for this workspace is in horizontal, which we don't want. So over on the left-hand side now, we've got a new panel, and the first thing we're going to do is click Transcribe Sequence. Okay, these default settings will work fine. It's basically saying that you're mixing only the audio track, but you can select individual tracks if you want to. We might want to do audio 1 because remember we added our whip axe effect onto audio 3, which might come across as like a or something. So we can just make sure that we're only creating subtitles on that audio 1 track. Press transcribe. And it's pretty quick, actually, for a 1-minute video. It goes through and does an insanely good job. One big test here will be if it knows the word squircle, which I'm not sure it will. Which kind of legitimizes my video. Yeah, yes, that is actually a word. It's in the dictionary.
Yeah, I noticed with the transcribe, like sometimes if I talk a little bit too fast, kind of words will get mushed together or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you edit. And then I listen back and I'm like, actually, I didn't say that very clearly at all.
Yeah. So straight away, you probably won't be able to see this on your screen, but it's my designer's line it's written as design as. I think it's because I just said it too long. So we can double click in here. Yeah, design as. We're just going to edit the text in here. Now, my subtitles are all caps in Futura over the top of the video. Things like commas and full stops are really distracting in here. So what I like to do is delete the commas and the full stops from the video. I'll leave in, grammatical punctuation like inverted commas and question marks because that feels weird without it. But full stops just kind of get in the way. And when you do when subtitles hang over and the line's a bit long, adding a comma there can make it too long, and it just sometimes just looks a bit strange. So I just like to delete out my commas and my full stops in here. And see, there we go, squircle, even spelt it correctly. So yeah. Squircle is a word, if you didn't believe me. Oh, squiggles. Okay, so we're just going to go over here. We're going to type over any spelling mistakes. I'm just going to do this quickly because we can do this again quite easily once the subtitles are in, but this just saves me a bit of time. It's faster to work in this panel because the text is all in one place. It hasn't been split into subtitles just yet. So any more full stops? Just delete the last one. Okay, great. Just checking to see if there's any more spelling of squircles. If not, we'll catch them in the edit. Great. So we're ready to add these captions to our timeline now. So I'm going to hit this little CC button here, which says Create Captions. Now I have caption presets here, but I'm going to build this one from scratch just to show you my settings that work quite well. So just leave this one as default, subtitle default. That one too. And then sometimes I'll have a preset caption in here, but this is blank right now because I'm doing this from scratch. So maximum length, I like to bring this down to 15, just so that it keeps the
characters. Okay.
In characters, right? So that's determining before it creates a cut for the next caption how long each caption length will be. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Minimum duration in seconds. I think you just leave that because this gets overwritten. And then lines, press single here so that the captions always stay on one line so that they don't stack underneath each other. We press create. Might take a second or two. This adds another sort of layer to the top of our timeline here. And you'll see it's broken out each of these captions into a sort of labeled section on the left-hand side here. One thing that's really annoying is for some reason it just loses the first keyframe and it's really distracting. So I just like to drag that first caption to the first keyframe. Now, when you click on each caption, it then highlights it in this left-hand window here, which allows me to then edit these captions as I go through. The first thing I'm going to do though is style them all in my style. And because I haven't got my preset ready, I'm going to do this from scratch to show you how to do it. So I'm going to highlight every single caption in the timeline. Over in the appearance panel over here, it's luckily got all of our essential graphics up on screen already. So I can add my font, which is Futura, PT Bold. we're going to make it all caps. Again, we're going to select our color from my libraries panel here. Oh, one sec, I didn't have it on screen. There's my yellow. There it is. Eyedropper, yellow. I'm going to get rid of my libraries panel now. I don't need that anymore. Turn the shadow off. I'm going to add my background, make that background 100%. We're going to do off black again to match the.
That's the square background
label
that goes over the the padding and everything. Yeah.
That's it. I'm just going to give it a little bit of breathing room.
And that bottom one that you're on there with the curve, is that to create rounded corners or something on the?
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, for those little sections. Now, this align and transform. Okay, so it's put it to the bottom of our screen, which is no good for Instagram and TikTok because the UI is going to get in the way, the captions are going to get in the way. You need to get this caption as high into the actual preview pane as possible, but bearing in mind that we've got stuff on screen that this is going to interfere with. So we may need to do some tweaks to move the captions up and down as we go. A good starting point is to go -600 on the on the vertical axis. It's nice and high, just under my chin, still in frame. In fact, we could probably go -700 on this one, actually. We'll use that as a starting point. That's on every single caption now. So as I go through, and I'm going to play this video, we're going to tweak these captions as we go. It's a bit laborious, this, but I find it's really handy, and it just, it makes sure. I've got a ridiculous British accent. No one can understand me from the States. Adding in the subtitles is just a clear fire way for them to know what I'm talking about. One thing I don't like is to give stuff away in the captions for what's coming up. So you see here how it's clipped. Designers, if I on the screen, that's basically leading in to the next cut, which I don't like. So I like to just kind of, if that happens, I just like to crop it to the cut. As a really quick way of doing this, if I bring it up to where the cut is for the first designers, select this, and with the C shortcut, I can split that caption in two, just the way I would a clip on the timeline. And on the left-hand panel here, it's split that caption into two sections. So I can double-click on the first one, delete out the if I, double-click on the second one, and delete out the designers. So now that is basically split that out nicely into its different cuts. So we're just going to play this through. Designers. If I round off the corner of a square in Adobe Illustrator, it got that wrong. So now I can go in here live, and I can just write over in Adobe and correct that live in this panel over here. Corner of a square in Adobe Illustrator. Depending on the size and the color of the rectangle, sometimes it can feel like there's a bit of a kink here, right where the straight edge. Okay, so it's added a question mark. Can delete that, don't need that. Right where the edge meets. Straight edge meets the corner radius. We can try and smooth that out by increasing the quarter radius. Quarter radius, got that wrong. So we can, like I say, just go through, listen to it as you're going, change the captions as you go. Out by increasing the quarter radius, which isn't always ideal, or we can use a squircle. Okay, so that is just a smidge too high. I might just leave that, it's not a big deal. So we'll go into another example of that in a second. As it zoomed in on my face, the caption covered my mouth, but we just got away with it. I'm not too bothered about that. Squircle, and yes, that is actually a word. If you're an Apple user, you'll probably know about squircles already. Your app icons and... Okay, so that is getting in the way of our overlay graphic. It's way too high. It's covering up the thing. If it was any lower, it would get in the way of that wording there. So with this, where this graphic is on the screen, we can see exactly against the captions timeline where the captions are getting in the way, and we can select those captions. We may need to split that caption. We'll see if we'll get away with it. We drag the start and end points of those, and then only the captions that are on display within that clip. I press shift click to select them, and then I drag the vertical position down underneath my labels. So they're still nice and high, but now they're not getting in the way of anything that's kind of crucial to what's on screen. So let's play that back. Your app icons and your Apple Watch are all designed with a form of a squircle. If we overlay an app icon on top of... So right there again, that's going over my graphic. which isn't great. So I'm going to just trim those captions to the graphic itself. Just going to zoom out on that. So all the way up to here. That one's okay. When it zooms in, it's all right. It's this first one that I don't like. So we can select this, everything within that clip. Select those 4 captions, drag them down. Let's do -600. Okay, now they're off screen. So you just work your way through and looking basically everywhere you've got the labels on the screen, reading the captions as you go to make sure that the words are correct and they're not covering up anything on display.
An app icon on top of my square with rounded corners, you'll see that I can't get that corner radius to match. And that's because this squircle doesn't use a single straight line to achieve that organic looking shape, which just feels more naturally curved and way easier on the eyes. So
same on that one. I would do exactly the same here. Bring the captions themselves inside the clip, because they're already done. So that one is splitting across the label. So if that happens, we'd use C and we would cut that caption in 2. And on the one, we maybe just trim that. I cut that about in 1/3. So I'm going to remove the first 2 words and leave the first 2 on the one before it. So it goes curved and way. And then those 3 captions that are inside that clip, the length of that clip, and then bring those down using our line and transform out of the way so they're not covering up anything on the screen.
Cool.
There's probably a way better way to do this. This is just the fastest way that I've found to, adding captions is a pain. It really does help your videos, but it is, they do get in the way sometimes. So this is just a way of getting
way easier on the eyes. So how do you create a squircle? Well, you can use these equations on Wikipedia and plot yourself a nice looking graph, or in Adobe Illustrator.
See it, typo there, or an Adobe, so change that to in. And then when you want to jump back, you just click on one of these items on the left here, and it will jump back in the playhead to where it is, so you can test it again.
Plot yourself a nice looking graph, or in Adobe Illustrator, just draw a circle and go to Effect, Warp, Inflate.
So what I like to do, flights. Okay, so when I say tool tips or tool commands like Effect, Warp, I used to put those on a separate layer as a label, but now I'm going to split this out into one that stretches across those 3. So it's the actual shortcut is there in one section. So just listen to this again.
Effect, Warp, Inflate, and play around.
And then once that's done, I can just slide this one back, delete that one out, and then where did it go? Effect there. So drag that to fill that gap, and we're going to go Effect, Warp, Inflate. And now that tooltip is on screen. So it's a nice, handy reference.
So it's just like kind of easier to see that main point that you're trying to get across in. Like it's just up for longer instead of people having to scrub back or watch multiple times to kind of understand what you're trying to say.
That's right. So let's listen to that back.
Circle and go to Effect, Warp, Inflate, and play around with the bend value.
Okay, so that caption is getting in the way ever so slightly with that tool, with that panel that's just come up on screen. It's not getting in the way of the bend value, so I'm actually going to leave that. It's not too big a deal. Normally I would drag that down like we did before and get that out of the way.
And play around with the bend value until you've...
With the bend value. Can't understand me. I mean, it's done a pretty good job.
And play around with the bend value until you've got your desired effect.
Cool, and then I'd like to just line up that last caption with the cut of the clip so that it's not doing a kind of stepped disappear then cut.
Yeah.
It's not too easy to notice, but it's really distracting. It's a little bit jarring. Something wasn't quite right there at the end, so you just line up the cuts as best as possible. And then our trademark thumbs up. Sweet. Okay. Nice. So that's our timeline all ready to explore. Our adjustment layer is turned on. We're just going to do a double check. Right now, I'll play the timeline through again, double check everything and clean up any little edits. And when we're ready to export, we go to File, Export, Media, or Apple M. Now, I think it will set this by default the first time you do it, and the default settings are totally fine for Instagram and TikTok. It's just double checking the bottom here that it's exporting at 1080 by 1920, 30 FPS or 29.97 FPS, whatever that is. You change your location, so make sure that file path is where you want it, otherwise you'll never find it again. Format is H.264, which is our lovely our MP4 file, and then hit export. And that usually takes my computer about 10 to 15 minutes to export, or 1 minute on clip. So I'm not going to do that now because it's going to kill our video. So once you're ready, then it's ready to upload. So I guess we can talk about the actual video itself, which I posted on Tuesday, right after our session. I think it was about an hour after our session, after I'd done all of the edits and posted it live. Right now, let's do a little refresh, actually, and we'll check our Instagram account as well. We've got 276,000 views on TikTok.
Wow.
223. So nearly 500,000 views since Tuesday.
Wow.
So that's not bad going. All right. So I think there's a few reasons why videos like this do well. They're kind of revealing, they're adding value, you're kind of educating in a sense. I'm not much of a teacher, but you're providing information for people that didn't know it before in a way that's kind of interesting to them. So this is a big thing about content online, is try not to think about your content as showing off about what you do, especially like someone like me as a designer. All I want to do is plug my services and plug how good I am as a logo designer. That kind of content is great for actually getting your sort of portfolio work out there, but it's not very engaging for people when you're kind of just showing off about your own content. So try and add value or give back to a user wherever possible. So instead of doing something like here's this great logo I did, maybe do a case study on it and talk about the versions that you did with the client and reveal the process a little bit, so it's kind of like behind the scenes. That way people get something out of that content. And I'll give you an example of that one. This logo that I did for Hummingbird is hit 1 million views, okay, and that's a case study for a client, which is ridiculous, okay, like an actual the client that I did this logo for was laughing when that came out, because obviously a viral video for a logo design for their business was insane.
Yeah,
but the reason I think that one yeah I think it's one of the reasons they hired me. I don't think they like the logo that much. They just wanted some of the exposure. But the reason that did well is because rather than just go, look at this great logo I did, I talked about the variations that we went through. I showed the 2 options that we made, the feedback that they gave me, and then the revisions that I did in that process. And then I showed some of the workings, and then the final product with mock-ups and sort of style guide and things like that. And I think that's the reason why that did well. It also created a bit of a discussion in the forum because a lot of people didn't like it. And obviously, as a content creator, you have to have a very thick skin. But there were 2 options that I presented. One of them, a lot of people thought that they should have gone with the other. That created a conversation around it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it did so well. It was just had a little bit of chit chat in there. It created a bit of conversation about the process. So I think that was pretty great. So yeah. 500,000 views since Tuesday on that video, which is just absolutely nuts.
And how do you go about planning your content? It was something we thought if we had time we could chat about as well. Like case studies versus did you see a squircle and you thought that would be a really cool idea for something to share, or is it something you discovered something else, like read an article or a tweet from someone? Where's it come from?
Yeah, I have a bank of ideas. So every time I come up with a video idea, I'll jot it down in a notepad, and I have something like 20 in there right now, just working my way through them. The case study ones are kind of time sensitive because the client has just launched the logo. So those ones kind of get done as the logo projects get launched. The other stuff is like a bank of ideas that I can just chip away through and create ideas around, create content around sort of ideas within graphic design. So my content is really structured around things like software tips and tricks, things in graphic design that people might not know about, like optical illusions and things you have to account for in logo design. Freelancer advice, so being the business of being a freelancer and how to deal with clients. and then the case studies. So I have I guess like 4 sort of pillars of my content, and I try and sort of work my way through those and skip through those as I go. Doesn't always work because things come out and news happens, like that when I went on TV last week. That was one I just kind of threw in the middle. So I try, because this has taken me an hour and a half to do this video, and I have to do that alongside my client work, which is a huge amount of work. And it's something that it's a kind of mindset that I have, that I see this as driving new business. So I dedicate a lot of my time to this, and the other half of my time to my clients. So I try and do 3 a week, 3 of these videos a week.
Right.
So that's quite a lot. And I'm a freelancer. I work from home. I have 2 young children. My hours are crazy. They're all over the place. So I try and, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll try and work on a video and post it on the same day. So yeah, it chops and changes, and it changes a little bit. But I think 3 a week is a pretty, a good number to actually make it manageable.
Yeah. And do you notice like a big drop off in, I don't know, engagement or other things if you only get 2
between
or
posting
1 out, or if you take a week off or something like that?
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? You have to keep doing it. It's and you also have to account for the times in your life when you're not going to have loads of business. You need to keep this as like a steady stream. So it can feel a bit daunting trying to come up with ideas and trying to come up with 3 videos a week, because yes, there is a definite drop in engagement when I don't post on the regular. So over Christmas, I saw a massive dip. I think everyone does over Christmas though, because I didn't post for something like a week. So boo, in my engagement analytics. So yeah, you do have to kind of set yourself some time each week to do this and treat it as like as part of your job. This is now part of my it directly leads to income. Like that case study video that came out, obviously that was a viral video, so I got a lot of work from that. But the case study videos, especially when you reveal the process, you're showing to the client how this might work for them, and that leads to loads and loads of leads for me. So it's a really, it's like an income generation tool if I can find the time to do it. So I can't really skip on doing that anymore, because it directly drives business, which is why I was on TV last week talking about the TikTok ban and how much it's going to mean for my business if it does get banned in the States, because it's a big deal.
It'll be a big one, right? Yeah. That'll be huge.
Scary.
There was a question that came through actually yesterday that we didn't get to. I didn't notice it because it came through on YouTube. If anyone has any questions while we've got a little bit of time with James, throw them in chat. This one came through. I think we kind of maybe already covered it, but let's ask it again. They asked, how do you share your camera footage to your Mac? I have a Canon and I always struggle sharing videos to my computer.
Well, luckily the USB-C port for this camera, this Sony ZV-E10, directly links to the port in my Mac. So when I switch the camera off and switch it on again, it acts like a hard drive. So it's really, really easy to transfer the files directly to my machine. And then I drag them into a folder specifically for Premiere Pro, then delete them off the SD card because it fills up really quickly. If you're using a phone though, AirDrop is the way to go with that. I'm working with a Mac, so it's much easier, but I couldn't live without AirDrop. Especially when I'm doing up close stuff on the screen and I'm recording tooltips and commands in things like Adobe Illustrator. So a lot of the time I forget to do that while I'm doing my batch of recording before I start editing. I'll get to the edit and I go, oh, I need a bit of footage now. So now throw it on my little Gorilla Pod here. So I'll stick that on my desktop, lay that in front of my machine, record anything extra that I need, and then throw that into the Premiere Pro clip. And then if it's like drastically different, the footage from the phone and the camera, I'll try and use that adjustment LUT that we had before and tweak that slightly to match the sort of iPhone settings.
Right. Yeah, cool. And there was something else that came up as well in the questions was like cover photos. I don't know if they're called thumbnails or cover photos within TikTok or Instagram. Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get into this. Pre-prepared. So I have this Illustrator file set up for my Instagram cover photos. So in TikTok, you can't upload your own one. You have to drag the playhead on the video and select a part of the video that you find interesting and then put your video title over that within the app. In Instagram, though, I do like to tweak my cover photos just because it makes the grid look that much nicer. So on my stories, it's my post, sorry, it's a 3x3 grid. And I like to make this sort of alternating between a photo of me and then and like an actual designed thumbnail for this video. So you'll see there's kind of like this, like, you know, a grid pattern going on here. What's it called? Hatching. I can't remember what it's called. But when you've got like an alternating grid, and I'll basically take a look at my Instagram feed just before I post and go, which one do I need? Do I want a photo or do I want a cover? If it's a cover, I'll dive into Adobe Illustrator, and I have my sort of brand template set up here. And what I do is when I make a cover, if I press Command Y in Illustrator, I have the square portion of that set inside the design as a sort of like a template for it, because when you post to Instagram, the cover photo is square, so it will be cut off. Any text that's underneath that will be cut off, but you need to upload a cover photo that is 1080 by 1920. So the actual whole artboard needs to be that big, but the content needs to be inside there. So if I switch off my background layer while I'm working, I can make sure that that is actually within the square. Then I'll just turn that back on at the end, select everything, export selection, and then that goes airdropped to my Mac.
Nice.
If I'm working with a photo and I'm working within Premiere Pro, if you go to your timeline, find the portion of your clip where the you know, you like what I like what's on this. I'm going to use my thumbs up, which I did for this one. It's not all motion blurry. In the panel under the sort of the preview panel in Premiere Pro, there should be a little camera icon here. If there's not, press the plus button here and just drag your little export frame camera icon into your toolbar. And then what I like to do is just press this little button, and it will export that frame as a PNG. And then I can then put that into my file, airdrop that to my phone, and then I can add my own custom thumbnail to Instagram, which then I can drag into the square on the grid and make sure that looks nice, and, you know, make sure everything's on frame.
That's cool. I like that. How important is the, you know, the thumbnail or the cover photo? Like, do you find if you know, do, like, I guess versus a photo which is just you, so I guess it's not really describing anything, versus the heading where it's very descriptive, you're going to learn this, or I'm going to teach you this, or, you know, click.
Honestly, I'm not sure on stats. I know it's a lot more important on YouTube because, you know, the content, the way YouTube videos are viewed is, it's like a search tool, and you see one and you click on it. It's not like on TikTok where you're just going through. So most of my TikTok content is because it falls into the For You page or whoever's following me. On TikTok, you can put the label over the top of the video. So that label is quite important. So if someone finds you for the first time and follows you, and you've got a bank of work, you can very quickly see which videos might be interesting for them, and they can click on it from in there. I'm not sure about Instagram, to be honest. I don't really have the stats on that, and I can't really tell you a sort of cover photo versus non-cover photo and how well they perform. But I just like to do it to make the grid look good, because the grid is quite important for new followers. If they come to your page and your grid looks lovely, it's a much easier follow for people. So there's a lot, people put a lot of time into grids, especially social media managers when they're content planning. Making those look really, like, you know, sexy is actually quite important.
Yeah. I hear it quite a bit. Yeah, with people we might work with, they're much more likely to post something on their story or something, but they're like, you can't mess with my grid. Like, I've been planning this thing for months and years. We have a question from Peter as well in chat. For how long were you consistently posting 3 days a week before you started noticing you were getting traction on your channels, or did it take off pretty quickly for you?
Well, I had a viral video on TikTok more than a year and a half ago, and that's when I really started to ramp up the video content, because I realized, holy cow, you know, TikTok is a massive lead gen for my business. So I needed to start creating that on the fly. And the three a week was kind of finding that sweet spot between not wanting to kill myself because there's so much social media work to be done, and still having time to, you know, have my clients get my client work done. And 3 was like a sweet spot between just enough engagement and burnout from actually making too much social media content. But honestly, that making the social media content is a really fun part of my job now. I love doing these videos and seeing the fallout from them, and especially when they go viral, it's awesome. You know, there's nothing like seeing those stats come in. and especially when those stats lead to business, for me,
Yeah.
it's brilliant. But yeah, it is 3 days a week, 3 times a week for video content can feel like a lot. And I like to, you can see from this, I like to polish my content. I like to cut it, and I do like to make it look semi-professional. Obviously, you can not do that and just take your phone and just record yourself and off the cuff and try and get your content out that way. But because my videos are structured, they do better. Do you know what I mean? I've actually like structured them. I've edited them down. They work much more. They're much more succinct, and I can get everything that I want to say that originally took me 3 minutes to get out. I can get that in under a minute by editing that down. So it's I like to polish that content, and I find that it definitely does better. Although saying that, some of the videos that I've posted, like 15-second videos where I've just been mucking about, a couple of those have hit 1 million views, and it's just so annoying when you try and work hard on this content, and then the stuff that you spend no time at all on, where your hair's messy and you haven't ironed your shirt, that one gets 15 million views. So,
I did notice on the video that I did like all these mistakes, and the one main one was I was wearing a dirty shirt, and because I got the studio lights, and once I bumped it, I didn't notice, but then I put the adjustment layer on and I tweaked things a little bit more, and I bumped up the contrast, and then I just exported it out, and then I was like, I didn't see it till the end. Well,
there should be 3 checks in the content. So the first check is when you play the timeline through in Premiere Pro. That's you editing. Now, annoyingly, sometimes if it's a hot day and your CPU is just not playing ball, that preview can be a little jumpy, and you might not spot everything. So the second check is after you've exported the video, run that through on your computer, check it again. The final check is through your phone, once before you post to TikTok, inside the app itself, let it run through one more time. I just do a final check to make sure that nothing has happened with the export. There's no bugs. So yeah, this should be three times where you actually do that check.
Actually, completely forgot. I actually did notice I was exporting to Dropbox and I didn't realize, and it was creating an artifacting thing about halfway through the video. And I didn't notice until I got to my phone, and I went, oh, that was really weird. Must have been some export. And then I did it again to Dropbox, and it was exactly the same thing at exactly the same point. And then I changed it. I thought maybe it's a Dropbox thing, and I put it onto my hard drive, and it worked perfectly. So I don't know. Right. Maybe someone else, if you have any issues.
Well, that's another rule of thumb for working in video, is to work locally. All your files should be on your hard drive and not on a cloud storage, because trying to stream them into Premiere Pro and then exporting them can create all sorts of issues. So yeah, any of your raw footage should ideally be on your main hard drive, so that you don't get that issue.
Yeah, good advice. Lesson learned from me. Peter has a question. So do those poster pages that you exported before, were they JPEGs or PNGs? You might have had the option.
For the cover photos,
the thumbnails, for the cover,
that was a PNG, but it doesn't matter. It can be a JPEG. PNG, just sometimes I just feel the quality can be a lot clearer. So I think it's the JPEG sometimes adds a bit of compression in Premiere Pro. I'm not sure on that though, but yeah, I always do PNG.
Well, just in general, JPEGs are lossy, right? So PNGs are not. So you can copy it forever and it'll be fine. So if you can, PNGs are almost always the better option.
There you go. You're teaching me now.
There you go. Yeah. And hey, I think we're just about out of time. So where can people find more about you? Obviously, Instagram and TikTok, I guess. We've been talking about it for 2 days.
At Barnard Co is my handle. If you go to barnard.co, which is my website, if you are a first-time user to the website, and you sign up to my newsletter, you'll actually get a free ebook about content ideas and how to win more clients via TikTok. So converting those views from those videos into leads for your business. There's loads in there about that. Basically setting up a sales funnel, making sure all your ducks are in a row. Then there's an easy way for people to contact you should one of your videos go viral. That's all in there. So yeah, feel free to check that out. That's free, so you can have a copy of that there.
Great. I remember years ago watching Aaron Draplin talk, and he was talking about when you got to be prepared for the time when it comes. Like you got to be ready for the call.
That's right.
He was talking about when he was working with Barack Obama's campaign or something like that. And it's like, if I wasn't ready, I wouldn't have been able to do it. It's the biggest thing I did at the time. Yeah.
That's it. it's so important. Like, what's the point of going viral or getting all these views if people can't get in touch with you? Yep. So Instagram's a funny one because there's DMs. So I actually get way more business via TikTok because it's kind of, people can't, the DMs are closed off. So people have to be able to get in touch with you via your website. So your link in bio should be absolutely nailed straight to your portfolio or wherever, and then on your portfolio make sure there's a great sales funnel, and so that people can get in touch with you really easily. Otherwise, what's the point in all this?
That's great. There was a question, converting watches to customers. Can you talk about that process a bit? And I think we just did. So that was a great question, Peter. Thank you for that. Check it out. Grab that ebook as well.
Yeah,
and good luck on your journey. Well, thank you, James. It's been great. I've learned so much. I always do learn a lot from you, and it's always just a really good time.
No worries. Thanks for having me again, and we'll see you on the next one, maybe in a few months.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds great. And we'll be back Adobe Live again next week, and we hope you guys join us. All right. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.